All right. Hello. Welcome to a new video. This one's going to be about the potential benefits of free energy and kind of the way I think you should, as a country or a government, go about it, or what would be best for us colloquially as humanity. So, number one, there would be an economic transformation, or an economic transformation rather. So the reduced cost of living, one of the most immediate benefits would be the drastic reduction in the cost of living. Energy is a significant expense for households and businesses, so making it free would free up considerable financial resources. People could save more, invest in education, health, or other areas, and potentially reduce the economic pressure of lower income families. So energy is a little bit of a colloquial term. It's both the energy that powers your house, but also think about things like fuel is also energy. And yeah, so economic growth, industries that are energy intensive, such as manufacturing, agriculture, technology, would see a significant decrease in operating costs. This could lead to lower prices for goods and services, increased productivity, and the potential for economic growth across various sectors. Without going into it too much, this pretty much says it all. Like manufacturing, it doesn't matter which level of manufacturing you're talking about. It could be steel industry, the manufacturing of electronic components, medicine. All of it would just be so much drastically cheaper because if you have pretty much infinite energy to draw on, even businesses, technology, agriculture, manufacturing, none of them would be limited by the expense of the operating cost tied into the cost of the energy itself. So a lower energy cost will almost always inevitably lead to the lower prices of goods. It's just a general fact of how things work. So job creation, new industries could emerge around the technologies that generate and distribute free energy, potentially creating millions of jobs globally. Additionally, reduced energy costs could also lead to the growth of existing industries and the creation of new markets. Pictured left, effective dual use of space using solar. So that's this picture of a parking lot and solar panels. I think it would be very smart because what you see nowadays is a lot of solar farms where the solar panels are being set up in unread nature, whereas governments have a lot of land at their disposal that they're currently not using. Things like highways, roads, sidewalks, parking spaces, the tops of buildings, both public, privately owned, industrial. There's a lack of using the space that we're already occupying efficiently. If you have a driveway, let's say in front of your house, like if you put solar panels above them, you keep your car in the shade. It can kind of have a double function, almost like a little bit of an extra garage, if you will. And you can extend this principle even to office buildings and the like. So. What's also actually really smart, which I saw a lot of more recent, what's the word? Office buildings do, is where they have the parking underground and then solar panels on top. Quite like the concept. So environmental sustainability, reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. The extraction of fossil fuels, which currently powers much of the world, often leads to environmental degradation. Free energy, particularly from renewables, would reduce the need for such extraction, helping to preserve natural landscapes and biodiversity. This also ties into the conservation of natural resources. If free energy comes from the renewable sources like solar, wind, and nuclear, or other sustainable technologies, think like geothermal, hydropower, and the like, it could lead to a massive reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. This would be a significant step toward mitigating climate change and its associated impacts on ecosystems and human development. Increased global equity, energy access for all. Currently, energy access is unequal, with many parts of the world lacking reliable electricity. Free energy could bridge this gap, providing electricity to underserved areas, improving living standards, and supporting economic development in regions that have been left behind. Empowerment of developing nations. Empowerment of developing nations. Free energy could help developing nations leapfrog traditional energy infrastructures, enabling them to develop more sustainably and equitably. This could lead to a more balanced global economy and reduce the wealth gap between rich and poor nations, and also rich and poor people. Top photo on the right is a poor use of space, as the solar panels could have been above a parking lot, which is a good dual use of space, just like shown in the previous picture. Poor use of space, still good going. Technological and social advancements, innovation. With the cost of energy no longer a limiting factor, there could be a surge in technological innovations. Industries like artificial intelligence, robotics, and space exploration could advance rapidly, leading to new possibilities for human progress. Computing in general, because if you have limited power, you have essentially limited cooling as well, which gives you a lot more power to work with. Improved quality of life. Free energy would enable more resources to be directed toward health, education, and social services, potentially leading to better healthcare outcomes, improved educational access, and an overall higher quality of life for people around the world. Again, free energy can also help with mobility. Let's say older people that can use things like mobility scooters or electric bicycles and the like. So, that can help them be a little bit more active in their older age. And it's always good to get the old people moving, because keeping old people moving increases their lifespan. Works that way for pretty much all humans. So, potential challenges of free energy. So, obviously, there would be, or there might be, economic disruption. So, impact on fossil fuel industries. The transmission of free energy could devastate the fossil fuel industry, leading to job losses and economic instability in regions dependent on oil, coal, and natural gas. Governments and communities would need to manage this transition carefully to avoid severe economic hardships. I actually don't think this would be very much of an issue, but I still have to write it down because people are going to claim it. But free energy wouldn't really impact them that much neither, because companies would just switch. For instance, if you have almost limitless energy, right, you would think, oh, okay, we can do away with things like gasoline and the like. But for instance, if you have unlimited power, you could have gasoline engines switched to run on bioethanol, which they already put in gasoline anyway. And there's places like Brazil and Australia where you have cars already running on the stuff. And it's actually, if you have pretty much an infinite energy glitch thanks to solar and nuclear, it'd be very easy to ramp up production for things like bioethanol and the like. So that way, combustion engine vehicles, for instance, wouldn't necessarily need to be removed from the road, and you could have a much cleaner transition in terms of transportation switching from entirely combustion engine free to still having some combustion engine vehicles, especially for things like heavier industrial vehicles. It could be potentially more beneficial to have vehicles that are still able to run on bioethanol, just because electric engines are, in a way, less strong. They have less torque than actual conventionally combustion powered engines. So transition costs. While energy would be free in the long term, the transition to a free energy system would require a massive investment in new infrastructure, technologies, and systems. This could be a significant short-term challenge, particularly for nations that are currently economically fragile. So, valid argument again. It would require massive investment at first. But at the end of the day, so does permanent dependence on fossil fuels. When it's quite easy in the modern era to get away with using other things like solar, wind, nuclear, hydroelectric power, geothermal power. there's just such a variety of energy sources that you can use. So I think if you go about the transition smart, or you plan certain things in a smart way, so you can really get the maximum benefit. Like, you don't even necessarily need too many countries to start with policies like this, but if you can just get a couple to get this kind of stuff going, like the effect would snowball just because of the sheer volume of money you'd be saving on things that you need to burn. For instance, coal is another fossil fuel that doesn't get talked about often because it's very polluting and nearly everyone is using it. And that's because of the accessibility of coal. And in a way, nuclear power is the second most accessible thing, because what do you need for nuclear power? You need water, you need a hell of a lot of concrete, and you need some nuclear fuel. And if you're a little bit of a developed nation, you don't even need to be super developed. Like places like India, Nigeria, South Africa, like even these nations could pull these kinds of things off and like fairly easily get their hands on all of this material and the know-how to actually get this kind of stuff going. All right, on to the next slide. Oh shit, I kind of fucked this one up. Oh, how did I do? How did I fuck this up so bad? Wait. Quick fixing. Mid video, great. So resource management and distribution. Oh shit. Quick fix. Resource management and distribution. Equitable distribution. Ensuring that free energy is distributed equitably across different regions and social classes would be a challenge. Without proper management, disparities could arise, leading to social tensions or conflict over energy access. Infrastructure challenges. Even if energy is free, the infrastructure to deliver it needs to be maintained and upgraded. This would require a different kind of economic model, potentially funded by taxation or other means, which would create new challenges in government and fairness. Well, I mean, the government is already kind of using your money for all this stuff. So, yeah, literally, energy companies, well, in the United States, probably it works a little bit differently because energy companies pay for the construction of power lines. But there is a power system in place. So, like the power lines that go all over the United States, like supply power to different sides of the different sides of the United States at different times. And this grid is old and it's in need of replacing. So, your tax money is already going to go to this. Might as well do it right. My kind of opinion on this. So, the free energy like doesn't really change the fact that there's going to be infrastructure, or at least newer infrastructure, needed to cope with the challenges of dealing with electricity and energy generation in the modern world. So the potential for overconsumption. So I think this is one of the more actual realistic problems. If you have free energy, or at least energy that's almost free in terms of cost, you're going to get more and more people using more and more of it. So the potential for overconsumption becomes a bigger issue. So some smarter people than me are going to have to put some actual thought into that. But the environmental impact, if energy is free, there's a risk of overconsumption, which could lead to new environmental challenges. For example, increased energy use could accelerate resource depletion in other areas such as water and minerals, or lead to the overdevelopment and habitat destruction. Waste and sustainability. Without cost as a regulating factor, people and industries might use energy wastefully. This could necessitate new forms of regulation or cultural shifts to promote sustainable energy use. So all kind of fair criticisms. I think the main issue would be if you get to a point where energy really almost becomes free. At some point, people are just gonna end up using their energy for dumb shit, which might not necessarily be bad because that will drive the innovation for us to get more energy. But you don't want it to end up in sort of a vicious cycle where you, I don't know, end up draining the Earth's core for its metal to make batteries or some shit. Like, I don't know, extreme example, but get the point maybe. Geopolitical implications, shifting global power. Nations that currently hold power due to their control of energy resources, like oil rich countries, might experience a loss of influence. This could lead to geopolitical instability or conflicts as the global balance of power shifts. New conflicts. While free energy could reduce some conflicts over resources, it might also create new ones, particularly if access to technology or infrastructure needed to generate or distribute free energy is uneven. Again, kind of a fair point. I feel every nation should sort of be aware for implementing their own strategies. And obviously, it would be good if we cooperate, but we already cooperate internationally through a variety of agencies. It's just that the, let's say, International Energy Agency, even though the name suggests that it's like an international energy agency, their power is very limited. So even if they would come up with all these, let's say, good ideas or try to enforce it, like it would still be up to countries to implement it and decide on how to go about enforcing things like this. So yeah, revolutionizing energy, driving costs down to near zero. So this is something I'm kind of big on. Harnessing solar power and existing infrastructure. Solar potential. Solar energy is one of the most abundant renewable resources available. According to the U.S. Department of Energy, enough sunlight hits the Earth in an hour to power the entire world for a year. By installing solar panels over existing road networks, we could capture vast amounts of this energy without requiring additional land or disrupting natural landscapes. Utilizing existing infrastructure. By leveraging existing infrastructure like roads, highways, and parking lots, we can reduce the need for new construction. This method not only saves on cost, but also makes use of underutilized spaces, transforming them in productive energy hubs. I think this is actually really smart, personally, because there's also a lot of problems with the bees. You could fucking, I don't know, put beehives next to them or some shit. Like, you're already underutilizing the space. Make use of your space, governments. It's what they're very bad at. Supporting with nuclear energy. So, nuclear power has a stable backbone. Nuclear energy provides a stable and reliable source of power that can operate continuously, unlike solar and wind, which are intermittent. According to the World Nuclear Association, nuclear plants have a capacity factor, a measure of reliability of over 90%, meaning that they produce maximum power more than 90% of the time. This makes nuclear an ideal complement to solar, providing a steady flow of energy when solar generation dips. Battery storage systems, advanced energy storage. Battery technology has advanced significantly, with systems like Tesla's Powerwall offering scalpable solutions for storing solar energy. Large-scale battery storage is crucial for balancing supply and demand, ensuring that excess energy generated during sunny periods can be used during times of low solar output. The U.S. Department of Energy Office of Electricity highlights the importance of energy storage in creating a resilient and reliable grid. So yeah, pretty comprehensive. On the next one, financial security for individuals. Energy poverty, high energy costs disproportionately affect low income households, a phenomenon known as energy poverty. According to the International Energy Agency, the IEA, nearly 1 billion people globally live without access to electricity, and many more struggle with the high costs of energy. By driving down energy prices, we can alleviate this burden, allowing more people to enjoy a higher standard of living. This is especially true for poorer countries where the access to energy, regardless of the source, is kind of crazy if you think about it. For instance, not having access to energy kind of goes hand in hand with not having access to things like water, because you can't get into advanced water pumping and the like if you don't have energy, very much. It's also tied to food. If you have a lot of energy, if you have good energy infrastructure, you can power all sorts of vehicles, farming equipment, transportation equipment, which can help you with food security immensely. Because if you can get massive farming equipment going, you can couple it with transportation. You can help out a lot of people pretty much. Environment and climate benefits, reducing fossil fuel reliance, fossil fuel dominance. The fossil fuel industry has long been a dominant force in global energy markets. According to the CIA World Factbook, oil and gas exports form a significant part of the GDP of many countries, making them heavily reliant on these resources. Reducing fossil fuel reliance not only cuts greenhouse gas emissions, but also diminishes the geopolitical power of these fossil fuel rich nations. Greenhouse gas emissions. Burning fossil fuels for energy is the largest source of greenhouse gas emissions, contributing to global warming and climate change. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the IPCC, emphasizes the need to reduce emissions drastically to avoid the most severe impacts of climate change. Transitioning to a low carbon energy system is essential to meeting these targets. Achieving global climate goals. Paris Agreement. The Paris Agreement, a global treaty to combat climate change, aims to limit global warming to well below 2%, preferably to 1.5 above pre-industrial levels. To achieve this, nations must drastically reduce their carbon emissions. A near zero carbon energy system driven by solar and nuclear power would be a major step toward meeting these international climate commitments. Also true, and in my opinion, I'm not necessarily personally that worried about temperature increase, but one of the main issues with pollution, for instance, still persists. And pollution and global warming don't even necessarily need to be tied together. For instance, in these pictures, you have an oil spill, you have a bunch of garbage. Both of these are examples of fossil fuel pollution. These are plastic items strewn about on a beach, probably washed up ashore, because our oceans are filled with this type of garbage. So we really need to reduce our pollution. And one of the biggest ways to reduce pollution is just by having more energy. So we can focus on the, let's say, production of more sustainable materials that we can use. I'll probably have to do another video about that crap. Shit. I don't really want to. I'm beginning to sound like a fucking hippie liberal, but I'm really not. I'm financially conservative. I just want cheap things. How hard is that to ask for? The potential for a better future. Switching to electric high-speed rail over air transport is, in my opinion, one of the biggest things that needs to happen. China is running ahead of this, and so is Japan. And the reason why high-speed rail in the long term is so much better than airplanes, number one, accident safety. Okay, if a high-speed train derails, number one, with modern things like maglev trains, this is a very rare occurrence. Simply due to the way it operates, there's no way it's going to go off the tracks. So much safer. Even if an accident would happen, at the end of the day, you're still on the ground. Okay? So I love flying, don't get me wrong. I love airplanes. I'm a big fan of modern fighter jets and the like. Love the way it looks. Flying is really cool. But I only see a point in flying if it's like, let's say, super long distances. And even then, I think air travel technology at some point needs to be researched in different ways. And I think we're better off when there's less short distance civilian air travel and a bit more long distance civilian air travel. Also in the space category, for instance, I think high-speed space flight would be really cool. So let's say you want to get from the US to Australia, you just fucking get on a fucking SpaceX rocket or something, you get fucking launched, you fly to Australia, you land, like 2 hours later, and you're there on the other side of the planet. Like high-speed rail is more like, let's say you're in Boston and you want to go to Miami. Like now you'd have to use a plane, but if you'd be able to use high-speed rail, you'd be able to just fly just as fast as, or drive just as fast almost as a plane is going. And you're just sitting in a train chilling, maybe having a drink, having some food, which is, train food is more decent than plane food. Just trust me on that. So switching to electric high-speed rail, transportation efficiency. High-speed rail is one of the most energy-efficient modes of transportation. According to the International Union of Railways, electric trains are significantly more energy efficient than airplanes, consuming up to 3 times less energy per passenger kilometer. By shifting from air travel to high-speed rail for regional travel, we can drastically reduce the transportation sector's carbon footprint. Reducing fossil fuel use in transportation. The transportation sector is a major consumer of fossil fuels, particularly oil. Investing in electric high-speed rail powered by a clean grid, we can reduce our reliance on oil, further diminishing the power of the fossil fuel industry and contributing to climate goals. So yeah, very important in my opinion. Trains. I love trains. Even though I love the look of steam trains and deep down secretly, I think we should revert back to them. Steam technology is just not efficient. It's the coolest looking one. Um, Maybe we could build. That would be so awesome. Like like a modern looking sort of steam train-ish looking maglev train. Um, Nerds are probably gonna go crazy for that. I am a nerd, so that's good. Freeing humanity to focus on bigger goals. Okay, so I think this is also a really big issue that most politicians are completely oblivious to, and I feel a lot of young people. This is one of the reasons why there's a lot of dissatisfaction with government. There's just no ambition with them anymore. Like there's no real crazy characters that are thinking about doing things differently. Global food and water security. With energy costs minimized and the power of the fossil fuel industry reduced, society could redirect its focus towards solving other critical global issues, such as food and water security. According to the United Nations, over 2 billion people experience water scarcity, and food insecurity affects millions more. Abundant, cheap energy would enable the widespread use of technologies like desalination, water purification, and advanced agriculture, helping to ensure that all people have access to clean water and sufficient food. Exploring and colonizing Mars, the innovations and efficiencies developed from this energy revolution could be applied to space exploration. NASA and other space agencies recognize that reliable, sustainable energy is crucial for long term space missions. The technologies and systems we could develop to sustain life on Earth could also be used to support human life on Mars and beyond, opening new frontiers for human exploration. I think Elon Musk is. We should just rename him Elon Mars. Elon Musk is actually one of the few people to see this. It's really important that humanity as a species starts getting to other planets. Like with the lack of aliens, I feel it's our duty as humans to become the said aliens. Like think about it like this, okay? Maybe in 300 years from now, you, me, everyone you know and love is dead, but there's some human flying around there in space on a saucer. And at some point, they find a planet with, let's say, liquid water, oceans, lakes, rivers, the like. And there's fucking aliens living there. And it's the humans that come down in a saucer, and we're the ones doing grain pictures in their fucking fields. And they're like, what the fuck are these primates? Or, you know? Or worst case scenario, we end up on an alien world and it's all over for us. But that's by the by. Fun to theorize about. Transformed by free energy. In summary, a world with free energy, particularly through the combined use of solar and nuclear power, could usher in an era of unprecedented benefits, including robust economic growth, environmental sustainability, and greater global equity. The widespread availability of affordable, clean energy could drive technological and social advancements that have the potential to dramatically improve the human experience. While the transition to free energy would present challenges such as managing economic shifts, ensuring equitable distribution, and preventing overconsumption, the rewards would be transformative. With careful governance, innovative technologies, and a commitment to sustainability, we would overcome these challenges. The result would be a world where everyone enjoys a higher quality of life, greater financial security, and the opportunity to focus on achieving broader human goals. If managed well, free energy could indeed make the world a far better place for all. Thank you for watching.